Tell you, we'll be working on fresh material. Right? Stan, double door routine. What would make a man skip the funeral of his lifelong best friend? Stan, Laurel and Oliver Hardy were more than comedians. These legends shaped everything. Comedy soul. But underneath the laughs tension, heartbreak, quiet no one saw. For decades, admirers wondered why Stan never spoke farewell Hardy. The truth is far away. More heartbreaking than expected. Comedy's most famous pair. Stan Laurel both and Oliver Hardy were opposites. Way. However, they made a chemistry that impacted comedy forever. Someone tall and slim with a look innocent confusion eternal set his face. Another was round and proud, acting like a man who believed he controlled everything until world decided otherwise. Together, they developed a comical rhythm generations-long echo. Their timing, chemistry, and easy disarray made them most golden age Hollywood pair age of laughing. Yet, behind the lights, scripts, and flawless slapstick, personal lives were marked by problems that didn't always reach the public. They met in 1921, before anyone could predicted that meeting's meaning. A film named The Lucky Dog, tiny silent comedy that failed large splash. Stan played a weak criminal robs man, while Oliver played crook. Rarely shared scenes, and neither could have envisaged becoming half something historic. Both were young then, attempting to endure childhood wilderness Hollywood, where stars drifted one short film to another, hoping for salary and maybe some recognition. Stan Laurel was raised among grease paint and sawdust smell. His parents ran a theater, and first, he noticed the stage lights. He joined Fred Carno's vaudeville troupe, the same corporation that launched Charlie Chaplin to fame. Stan did work. Understudy Chaplin watches closely as Chaplin created universes from little gestures, quiet. It was the excellent physical narrative. Even if Stan didn't know then, those lessons would become the basis for all he did later created. When the troupe visited America, Stan stayed to find new opportunity in film. He bounced tiny comedy parts and directing occupations, never finding his identity. Should be. But he learned about framing, rhythm, and one pause a gaze could animate a situation. These details would later define his genius. Oliver life and Hardy couldn't have been more different, yet it brought him to the similar goal. Hardy started theater singing, then moved into vaudeville, then silent films. His friends nicknamed him Baby. Trapped when a barber called him was younger. A bigger man compared to life in presence and personality. By early 1920s, he'd already featured in hundreds of films, not as a star, but capable supporting actor, make a tiny role count memorable. When Hal Roach Studios put Laurel and Hardy together, featured in 1927's Putting Pants On, something snapped instantaneously. Philip. It wasn't manipulated. It was natural. Laurel's weak child perfect versus Hardy's tremendous self-importance. Laurel would tilt his head, blink, and look helplessly facing the camera. Hardy roll his eyes, puff his chest, stay dignified during disaster. The chemistry wasn't simply effort. It formed its own language. Over 20 years, they built empire of laughing. Made over 107 films together. Each was a physical comedy masterclass. They did not use dialogue or quick punchlines. They created humor from rhythm, passion, and timing. There, the Cuckoo song became a theme. Famous bits of musician film history. A few notes could draw attention, signal that turmoil and delight would arrive unfold. Critics praised their balance. Fool and frustrated gentleman, two extremes orbiting comic perfection. Their fame spread way outside US. They toured Europe, where fans loved them as they were folk heroes. In 2005, decades later, Brit comedians voted them 7th finest comedy act ever. Proof that their humor never dated. But even legends succumbed to time. Late 1940s, the globe, that former slapstick fan, was evolving. Audiences wanted new after the war. Modern entertainment. Magic that crowded theaters began to fade. And Laurel and Hardy made the 1951 picture Atal K was their last. It was impossible to ignore fractures. The production was a headache from start to finish. Both males were sick. Poor script and communication between French and Italian crews made everything worse. The result was film that fell short. Legacy. The first time, no longer was laughter easy. It ended an era. Not because lost their spark, but because the world changed. Still, despite the cameras stopping, their bond would endure success, disease, and grief. And Stan Laurel would have one that ultimate silent choice that leaves admirers wondering for decades. Private struggles of Stan. Stan Laurel might have made the world chuckle, but Tone life was often a maelstrom he couldn't control. Away from cameras, he was a workaholic dude tangled in complex interactions and driven by a drive for excellence that rarely lets his rest. His problems generally started there. Hart did. Stan had a bad romance, dazzling starts that quickly public unrest ensued. He was married 5 times, but only for one woman twice. The pattern was nearly cinematic. Passion, misunderstanding, and collapse replicating scenes in his own farces. Hollywood knew him before Stan's first Laurel and Hardy half-grade entanglement with May Dolberg, an Australian actress and performer. They met in the workplace. Vaudeville, and she was his partner on stage and off. May was brave, erratic, and jealous Stan's rising prominence. She claimed to have named Stan Laurel, persuade him to modify its birth name, Arthur Jefferson, because better for showbiz. The name and stress stayed. The appearance of May soon caused problems. Stan's career. She often degenerating his professional lives by interrupting rehearsals, challenging directors, and creating unsettling set scenes. The Hal Roach Studios producers noticed her liability, and her reputation began to impact Stan's prospects. By 1925, the situation was strained. Producer Joe Rock did well offer. He reportedly offered May a payout. Settlement. Some say $10,000 if she left Stan and avoided permanently in the U.S. She accepted, and first time in Stan breathed for years. But that kind resolution doesn't erase emotional damage. His later marriages didn't bring serenity. Either. Lois and Stan married Nielsen in 1926, and it appeared stable. The couple had 2 kids, but fame-long workdays separated them. Stan married after divorce. Virginia Ruth Rogers divorced her, then married Russian Vera Shulova opera singer, returning to Ruth again. A love carousel, remorse, and redemption. He wasn't cold or cruel. He was simple. Restless, always seeking serenity. He found nothing. Even in his private moments, Stan's genuine marriage appeared to his job. Though Oliver Hardy enjoyed a carefree outlook, movies, trusting directors and scripts their bit, Stan wouldn't let go control. He drove creativity. The pair. Not formally acknowledged writer or director mostly, but everyone at Hal Roach Studios knew was shaping films. He wrote jokes, rewritten scripts, modified scenes, continuously rethought how to create a little funnier, somewhat crisper, more perfect. Stories about him hours in editing room, fractional timing adjustments too. Confident that one mistimed pauses can ruin joke. Colleagues recalled his repetitively practice, then scrap a complete scenario if it felt wrong. Comedy Stan was not lucky or impulsive. It was architectural. Glance at every autumn, hesitation was planned precision. That perfectionism contributed what made Laurel and Hardy classic, but it cost. The responsibility held him down. Hardy may leave the studio and Stan relax at a golf course or party carried work home. He was always sketching, revising, or midnight calls to editors to tweak something upsetting him. The pair's fame peaked. Pressure to maintain that level solely intensified. Audiences anticipated perfect every time, and Stan took that expectation personally. Over time, the tension affected his health. By the 1940s, he had diabetes. Heart trouble slowed him. Long hours and stress stole despite their toll. He persisted. His work was inseparable from him. Identity. Despite being too feeble, perform, he wrote drawings, potential film notes that never were happened. Fame once lifted, he became a burden. Hollywood changed, and the comedy he relied on was gone. Focus has shifted. Sound flicks, new styles, faster pacing made the slow, deliberate humor of Laurel and Hardy feel outdated to youth audiences. Stan felt heartbroken that something cherished, something he developed with such compassion, was fading. Every failure was personal, every success temporary. He put his heart into laughter. After laughter died down, he faced a rare quiet could grasp. And that quiet, pressure, and pain would follow the stage for some of the most talked about regarding comedy milestones. Fedjuo's disputes. Fame transformed Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy becomes the world's favorite pairfuls. Yet off-screen life was much more complicated than their tidy disorder made on camera. Behind the charm and humorous grace, rumors, bad decisions, and emotional breaks that even their closest friends tried to ignore. Laurel was always the guy more serious, especially when he was crafty. But that intensity sometimes entered his personal life, where gossip blurred the line-truth exaggeration line. As time passed, whispers about him drinking became apparent. Some colleagues reported his struggles, depression, especially during slow work periods. Relationships broke. The guy known to create stunning set scenes lost the ability to edit the mess in his life. There were reports of his retreat buddies drinking to calm anxiety, those with fame and failure. His condition was precarious, and pressure to innovate only made it worse. Insiders reported Amon divided between legacy pride and irrelevance dread. Even at his best, he was deemed difficult to work with. At Hal Roach Studios, criticized him for being excessively controlling, hesitant to trust others' judgment. He insisted on supervising everything from writing to props, lights, even costumes. Stan saw comedy as a precision art form. Not everyone agreed, though. Rumors circulated about his perfectionism drove crew members away and occasionally tested Hardy's tolerance. To some, it felt like camouflaged dictatorship dedication. Oliver Hardy lived troubles of its own. While he concealed them with his kind grin, they often made news. He was married 3 times and seemed heartbreaking. His second, Myrtle Reeves' wife, allegedly struggled with alcohol and relationship intensified volatile. Friends recalled fights that exhausted them. Hardy, though friendly and quick to forgive, often got caught in frustration guilt cycles. The contrast between his calmness on screen and home disarray were stark. He has financial issues also. Heteroidable to excess, famed for supporting friends and spending freely, although he ignored money, which caused recurrent tax issues. The 1930s and 40s were rough on actors, had little business sense, and Hardy trusted people without always his best interests. At times, he owed the government heavily. There were times he had to do less prominent work be buoyant. He rarely griped, he was exhausted by it. Despite these challenges, the public consider them both lovable dudes they played on screen. Innocence of their characters were shared identity. Fans number in the millions, symbols, not just actors' simple delight and companionship. That image was so powerful few could fathom. 2 elderly comedians fight health issues, creative blockades, and fame's gradual decline. When articles regarding stress circulated, audiences didn't want to trust it. They erected such compelling chemistry of his idea conflict seemed inconceivable. Yet their partnership was never steady harmony. They disagreed on direction, concerning scripts, and who should write last call. Stan's intensity sometimes clashed with Hardy's laid-back nature. They had occasions when Hardy spoke between scenes, preserving communication for cameras, where professionalism required it. Despite the friction, affection remains that never vanished. The public curiosity with their connection went beyond friendship. Over years, some thought there may be proximity with something deeper. After decades together, traveling, working, and relying on another more than others, they excursion hotels were often shared, finished each other's sentences, seemed inseparable. As for audiences, looked like a successful alliance beyond camaraderie. There were rumors syndicating romance. Yet there was no profit. People who knew them thought it was a brotherhood, emotional closeness created via years of work. Perhaps the gossip persisted because their on-screen chemistry was so natural that folks couldn't fathom being solely professional. As they aged, such borders between public image and managing private realities became harder. Both men faced personal issues. Problems. Stan is healthy. Restlessness and health issues, financial and emotional exhaustion. They maintained appearances whenever possible, together, smiled for photographed, interviewed politely, endeavored to maintain the illusion. Laurel and Hardy survived. Like audiences remembered. And as world moved on, Hardy's struggles, it would quickly weigh more and harm that no amount of laughs could disguise. Hardy's awful fall, that included Oliver Hardy's decline. Hollywood tales that seemed cruel, one who had devoted his life making others chuckle. The image the world knew, the round, confident gentleman with bowler hat and self-importance, began to twinkle, slowly fade into fragility aspect of himself few knew. Poor habits, years of physical strain, the cost of continual performance caught up to him, and transformation was heartbreaking watch. Hardy's weight was always his cinematic persona. The size, his distinction from Stan. Laurel was key to their comedy. The arrogant, heavy-set man trying maintain control, while smaller, clumsy spouse wrecked everything him. Off camera, That weight was a problem. Lifelong burden. By 1940, he was big. Become hazardous. Reports suggested he weighed over 300 pounds. Ant-whoring and performing physically filming was wearing him down. Audiences found appealing. Groundness was a health crisis awaiting action. In 1954, Hardy a minor heart attack occurred. It wasn't that instantly lethal, but it caused him to confront what he overlooked: his health for decades. The fear forced him to adapt drastically. Under doctor's orders, he started rigorous diet, motivated to recover control. In the coming months, the man lost about 150 pounds. Drastic transformation that pals hardly recognized him. When fans were shocked when he returned, the familiar spherical form was gone that had symbolized half the planet favorite comedy team. His face expanded, skinny, his clothes slack, and his formerly pleasant appearance took a quite ghost-like. Some tabloids believed he was dying of cancer. Others questioned if he was hurt. Strange sickness. Hardy never did address rumors directly. But while he was nice and gentle, a calm sadness, as if recognized that the public no longer saw the man they loved, a shadow off him. Sadly, his rapid weight loss little saved him from injury already finished. Years of heavy smoking and poor diet harmed him greatly, heart and lungs. He was a lifetime smoker who indulges during breaks, filming, or between takes. It was part-period culture, studios, dressing rooms, even sets filled smoke from cigarettes. For Hardy, it's an unbreakable habit. By the time physicians warned him of consequently, his body was already struggling after years off strain. Combining heart concerns, he was exhausted and had weak lungs. Less mobile. Man who had once chased Laurel across rooftops, camera now moves downstairs. Difficulty. Film work offers dried up, that risen largely because audiences wanted to remember him as he was, not as should become. He declined publicity, instead living by looks quietly with his caring wife Lucille devotedly through his death years. In 1956, disaster struck again. Hardy had a big stroke. Paralyzed and speechless. A painful twist for someone whose life revolved around performance, tempo, and expressiveness. He was bedridden. Stan Laurel called it a prolific writer, Hardy weak to react. Their bond, which carried them for decades, only joy and hardship remained. In silence. Stroke ended Hardy's public. He never worked. Never face a camera, never show Laurel the screen like he often had. And he had two more in August 1957. Rapid strokes. His body could no longer take it. On August 7, 1957, Oliver Norville Hardy dead from cerebral thrombosis, 65 years old. News of his death spread. The response was immediate. People from all over paid tribute. Hollywood, Europe, beyond. Comedians, actors, and filmmakers grew up watching him. Described his great timing and kindness person. Newspapers called him a gentle giant, a comedian humanity, not harshness. Laurel and Hardy fans since childhood mourned they lost a pal. All across worldwide, theaters replayed pictures, and audiences laughed again. Tears, recalling how much joy he brought them. Hardy died symbolized more than a man's death. It symbolized an era's end. The slapstick golden age was over. Faded. But Hardy's death ended it. Curtain fell over that simpler realm of humor. His absence left a stillness even Stan Laurel couldn't fill. In the weeks following Hardy's passing, fans awaited the one man who shared almost every frame of his life. On funeral day, something unexpected happened that stunned everyone. Reasons why Stan's absence. Funeral for Oliver Hardy, 1957, on a warm August day, Valhalla Memorial Park, North Hollywood. A simple ceremony, silent, dignified, face-filled. Formerly. Family, friends, and old colleagues were gathering to bid goodbye. He was half of one of cinema's best partnerships. Outside, photographers hoped to take one picture everyone expected to see. Stan Laurel stands by his last lifetime friend, yet had never arrived. Seat designated for him remained unfilled. For many, that absence became as disgust as to the funeral. Truth was much more painful than expected. At the time, Stan was weak when Hardy died. Himself. Years of fatigue, diabetes, and heart disease weakened him. He lived quietly in Santa Monica, letters and recovery his emotional and physical strain career. When Hardy's death was announced, it impacted him harder than anyone noticed. Later insider reports revealed that hearing it, he was greatly shocked. Loss wasn't only personal. Like a piece of him lost their identity. Going to the funeral wasn't easy. A choice. Indeed, Stan's doctor strongly urged against, warning that emotional stress and physical activity may cause another collapse. His body couldn't tolerate travel or worry, even if he had ignored the warning, knowing he wouldn't have survived the service. When asked about his choice, just said, "Babe can understand." The nickname Stan gave Hardy was Babe, but he used it for decades that referred to him privately. That brief sentence stated everything about their depth. Stan understood friendship too. Public appearances helped, especially about celebs of their status. He knew if he arrived frail and emotional, the press would film him. Instead, the funeral would end for Hardy regarding his burial and instead become a show about Survivor wasn't his goal. It belongs to Hardy and distractions. Even a love child would have felt strange, but his absence was readily misread. Newspapers then thought something went wrong. Some said the two men split before Hardy's illness or their partnership had ended bitterly. Others suggested pride or remorse that Stan could not bear seeing his friend buried. Magazines received confused fan letters that disappointed. For those who grew up observing their unbreakable bond stumble and recover on screen, that was nearly unimaginable. Someone wouldn't say goodbye, but those closest privately knew the truth. Conversation and later interviews, Laurel stated that there had been no dispute or anger. Their friendship lasted till even during Hardy's final months. Stan contacted Lucille. Hardy frequently requests updates. After mailing comfort letters at funeral, he received notes condolences from fans and co-workers the world, but he mostly stayed not expressing grief when pressed. Reporters, he just said he had lost his best friend despite illness. He continued, confined him to home to create jokes, sketches, and concepts. Many still had Hardy-s. He seemed to be claiming another name that cannot fathom producing without him. Nearly every unfinished concept ended, Hardy's character waiting off-screen and ready for the cue never came after Hardy's death. Stan Laurel gently pulled back that once his second home, the stage had no meaning without him. Companion, he never performed that again, rejecting any offers to him. Laurel and Hardy singular invention, something unable to exist with half that. He spent his dying years decorated with career memorabilia, letters, scripts, and photos from films that defined an age. Piles of writing persisted after retirement, drawings and unfinished scripts crowded his desk. Each with his timing and simplicity are familiar. He didn't want to perform. Writing became his solitary ritual to stay connected to the craft. He also found meaning. Answered fan mail diligently, occasionally penning considerate letters to fans who had laughed at his work, often shocked visitors. His warmth and humility, always willing to talk about Hardy and their 1961 relationship. Movie Academy and Sciences awarded him an honorarious Film Contribution Award comedy. But he wasn't moved by the praise that attend the ceremony like everyone else later in life. He enjoyed staying less famous. Stan Laurel died in 1965 at 74 from heart disease attack, leaving a legacy still influences humor. His legacy goes beyond pioneering, but as a faithful friend who never ceased laughing with the loser. Was there more? Stan's absence? Answers in the comment here. If you liked, watch this video and click the upcoming video.